If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
We had problems of alcohol in my family. We're not strangers to alcohol problems, so I knew what it looked like. I didn't think I had an issue with it, but I realize now that one time I was not too long, like 5 years in, I said to the kids one night, I was doing Christmas decorations, nothing's working. I'm just going to have a martini. And they both turned around and said, no. And the way they looked at me, I swear, it's like ingrained in my brain. And then I knew, wow, I must have been really not so great.
Before we speak with Kim Bellis, the founder of Sober is the New Cool, we want to thank these following sponsors for supporting parents and addicts in need. Ashton Lighting. Whether you're choosing a new lighting style or needing to repair your favorite desk lamp, James Ashton Lighting is the premier destination. The choices are endless for manufactured lighting, custom lighting, outdoor lighting, commercial lighting, and home decor. They will guide you every step of the way, from providing the perfect lighting style to installation. EECU, Educational Employees Credit Union. Unlike many other types of financial institutions, they're a not-for-profit financial institution solely owned by their members. There are no stockholders. Each EECU member is an owner in equal standing and has the right to attend the annual meeting and vote for the board of directors and supervisory committee.
Don't Hide the Scars, a weekly podcast focused on addiction and recovery. Created by the nonprofit Pain, Parents and Addicts in Need, and founded by Flindt Andersen.
Kim Bellis, thank you for joining Flindt Andersen, the founder of Parents and Addicts in Need, and myself, Jason LaChance, on the Don't Hide the Scars podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm really honored, truly.
Absolutely. We love what you're doing, of course, with Sober is the New Cool.
Love that saying, by the way. And
what really I just love what you're putting out there, and why I wanted thankful for the opportunity is this gentleman sitting next to me has been screaming to the hilltops for over a decade and a half to parents about modeling behavior, getting involved, being involved in what their kids are doing. And of course, your sober journey started because of your son's health.
Absolutely. It was all because of him. He gave me back my life, basically.
That's outstanding. So tell us how that got started.
Well, in 2013, our life was, from the outside looking in, pretty much, ideal. He was playing football. He was living his dream. He was 13 years old. And from one day to the next, he started having grand mal seizures. And the seizures, were they from football, whatever, who knows? But basically, he would be on medication for the rest of his life. And at 13, to take football away was huge.
Sure.
He couldn't ride a bike because I never knew when he was going to have the next seizure until they fixed his medicine. And so, once that kind of got fixed 6 months down the road or so, I'd say, come on, Matt, you've got to go out and see your friends. You got to hang out. You got to do something. 30 minutes after I'd drop him off somewhere, he'd call me and say, come and get me. I just don't fit in. And then the third time I said, okay, this isn't working. What's going on here? So I went downstairs quietly just to talk to him by myself. And I said, you don't need booze to have fun, Matthew. And as I said it, I had the biggest glass of wine in my hand. And I thought, you are such a hypocrite. You are such a hypocrite. And at that minute, I don't know what happened. I just looked at him and I said, okay, I'm going to stop drinking for 3 months. And 3 months came and went. And then he said, see, now you could be like everybody else again. So I said, okay, I'll do another 3 months, and it'll be 10 years, January 12th, I'll be sober free.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I love it. I love it.
I love that. I wish more parents would do that. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, because kids see their parents drinking and, and even smoking pot these days, and they think it's perfectly fine. And those parents have no idea they're leading their kids down a path that they may not come back from.
No, and quite honestly, I drank. Now I realize, I drank way too much wine, and the martinis and the this and the that. Was I out of control? No, I was doing all the it things, raising money for cancer, doing all the good stuff, the class mother, the this, the that. But you
Right.
know what? I wasn't happy, and I had no real passion, and now I
Mhm.
do.
That's
Wow.
wonderful.
Wow. What then? That's so interesting that you say that, because so much stuff from the outside that people that we perceive and go, I want that person's life and this, and
Yeah.
it's amazing those things
Hmm.
weren't fulfilling. What did you really start to notice after the first 3 months of how life changed, how you saw yourself?
Well, you know what? Our life was really, really bad at that point, like worrying about getting back into hospital and this and that and ambulances. And so I think it's kind of a blur. And it was really all about him, right? I mean, I don't think I would have ever done this for me. That's
Mhm.
really quite honestly the truth. And I wanted to fix him and I couldn't. So I figured that was the only thing I could do. And I just started sleeping better. I was like in a better mood. When I said something, I didn't regret it the next morning, right?
That sounds
Um,
familiar.
Wow, that does.
right. And when I said it, like I never really regretted what I said. I regretted how I said it, and I was much more, um, I like tolerant. I think I was patient. I started exercising. I think just the fog was gone. Like that
Sure.
kind of like dragging your feet kind of thing in the morning. And I didn't realize to what extent. And I was, it was a habit. And I was with people that drank a bottle of wine a day. So it was
Sure.
like, I didn't look like I was bad or out of control, but I was. I was.
Yeah, that what is it? The mom's wine club that is so
Yeah.
prevalent with so many. I'm actually in a group with a recovery group with a young woman, and she was sharing, and she goes, "Yeah, my mom used to always tell me and my siblings, see, you're why I drink." And how
Ooh.
despicable is that, you know?
Ooh,
Oh,
that's horrible.
ter- terrible, terrible. And the other thing, we were in treatment, like for therapy and whatever, because obviously he was depressed, not being able to do anything, and I was a control freak, up, watching his every move. And then the psychiatrist said to us at one point, she said, "Oh, you're a working mom," and I looked at her and I said, "What? I don't work. I'm a stay-at-home mom. The kids come to my house. I have the barbecues. I have the sleepovers. I have everything." And it was like a truck hit me, because I said, shit, I really missed a lot, because if she thinks I was never home, and like I was home, I was there.
Right.
So I missed something, right? I missed what was going on. And
Right.
there was a lot other things going on in his life at the same time, and so the whole thing just kind of went psh. So I'm a big believer in, mental health and addiction, because, I think that there's a lot of pain and suffering that is really the booze or the drugs are just to cover that up.
Oh yeah, there's a huge correlation with addiction and mental health, but a lot of times people when they say mental health, when they say that term,
Oh yeah.
a lot of people think, well, we're just all nuts, and well, some of us are, but it's not about that,
No.
it's other things, it's depression, it's anxiety, it's yeah, I mean, you could be normal in so many other ways, right? But you have that little anxiety thing going on. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different, I don't even know what the word is, but there's a lot of different types of mental health, um, things that are going on. But I wanted to ask you too, how's your son doing today?
Well, I'll be 10 years sober. He'll be 5 years seizure free January
Wow.
24th. Yeah. So yeah.
Great,
I
great,
love
But
it.
great.
he doesn't drink. He doesn't take, at the beginning, yes, he tried because at the hospital they said, oh yeah, yeah, you can have a glass of wine or a beer or two. Well, I don't know any 14, 15-year-old that's going to do that. So
Right.
I was
Right.
not really happy with that consultation. But so he, at the beginning, tried a few times to drink with his meds. and sure enough, we'd end up in an ambulance. So,
Right.
yeah. So there's no option for him with booze, and he doesn't touch it. I still say to him when he goes out or to a wedding or something, I still have that little, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, just in case, because the
Sure.
peer pressure is huge. It's huge.
It is.
It is still for me, 10 years almost in, people saying, just come here. Nobody's going to know. You've proved your point,
Right. Right.
Oh God, yes, and that nobody's gonna know thing. I had and Kim, I don't. My understanding, you never did any AA or sobriety groups. Am I correct on that? So
No.
In this 12-step process, there's a talk about a restored to sanity, and for us, that's that point of where it's the offer or it's put to you, and we get that moment of going, no, there is nothing, because at the end of the day, who knows that person looking in the mirror, and I got to feel good about me every day.
Right.
Yeah. And how could I look at my son if I made a promise to him saying I was going to do something to support him? How could I look at him and say anything after that, like being such a liar or a hypocrite? It wouldn't work. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, this proves my point. And when I'm telling people, because look, I'm an AA nut. Okay. I love the 12 steps. I love it. AA, all of that. But one of their sayings is, and I was watching Rob Lowe the other day, and he was saying the same thing. You have to do this for yourself. You have to do this for yourself. Well, yes, that there's part of that, but I've always made this statement. We have to do it for ourselves, but when we do it for others, especially our families and those that love us, that has a tendency to heal our own hearts. And so there has to be that combination of, I really believe this, of doing it for yourself and for others, because it's just so important. We're selfish enough as addicts and alcoholics, right? So what's wrong with giving up some of that selfishness and doing it for somebody else?
Yeah,
just a point.
Absolutely. And like now, a lot of people will ask me to talk in their AA meetings in their rooms. And I've been so moved by it. It's incredible. That's been a huge, whenever anybody came to me and asked me where could they find help, I'd ask them, I'd give them the AA, I'd give them all kinds of alternatives. But until you're really involved, and I'd help somebody get back into AA, and then she asked me just to be a speaker for her in one of her meetings, and I was completely blown away. Like the strength and the love that's in those groups is wonderful.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised, top-quality care with programs for detox, inpatient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living, support groups, and more. With 50-plus years of combined experience and sobriety, Flindt, Andersen, and Thelma Gatlin Wilson provide adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, and a safe, comfortable environment. To begin the process of recovery, to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction, call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
How did you, as a mom then and being social, start going out? Was there a period of time that you abstained from going out to social gatherings? And then how did you reincorporate, so to speak?
Well, the first year I was like basically missing in action. I didn't really go very far. And when I did, and you know what, I admit now that I really used my Matthew as an excuse. It was, I don't drink because, right? There was never, I don't drink, period. Right. I always felt I needed to have an explanation. And he used me as a crutch when his friends would show up with their backpacks. My mother quit drinking. You're not allowed to bring booze into the house. And I would use him, right? No, I can't because of Matthew. And that was what kind of worked for me at the beginning. It was, I wasn't bad, because I had that. And we had problems of alcohol in my family. We're not strangers to alcohol problems. So I knew what it looked like. I didn't think I had an issue with it, but, I realize now that, you know, one time I was, you know, not too long, like 5 years in, I said to the kids one night, I was doing Christmas decorations. I said, nothing's working. I'm just going to have a martini. And they both turned around and said, no. And the way they looked at me, I swear, it's like ingrained in my brain. And then I knew, wow, I must have been really not so great. You know? Right?
I think we've all had those moments where those kids look at us and you go, oh God, yeah, okay, I get it, you know.
Oh yeah. I had that with my youngest, and I spat off, gosh, I picked the wrong life to be an alcoholic, and I got that look like, really, Dad? I think you picked the perfect life. It was a million words in just one stare of like, really, the life that you have now, the life that we have now, the connectivity in the home, and you're sitting here spouting this bull out, and it's like, okay, you're right, my child. I will quell my words here, so to speak.
Right.
And you know, to this day, I have to say, I don't stay very late at most parties. I don't.
Right.
You know, this summer there was a party I went to, and they had my favorite pink champagne, which I hadn't seen, because I don't go into the liquor store anymore. That's one of my things. I won't wash a wine glass. That's another thing. I just won't do. I can't. Right. I don't know why. Right. But when I saw that champagne this summer, my eyes were like, you know, saucers, and I had to do like a 360 and, you know, get out of there pretty quick, you know. And it just was like in my, you know, it just happens.
Sure.
Here and there, you get those triggers, and you have to walk away.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to a function with my golf guys tomorrow evening, you know, and these guys all drink, you know what, and they can, right? I mean, they can. But what's cool about it now is because they keep inviting me, you know, to this stuff, because they know what I do, right? And I'll tell you what, every one of these guys though has got an eye on me somewhere. You know, they know I'm not going to drink. Right. Because I play golf with them constantly. We travel together. We do stuff together. Right. But there's always somebody going, you're too close to that. Okay. You know, I mean, there's an eyeball somewhere on me, which is pretty cool. I actually love that a lot about those guys. Yeah.
You bring up some interesting points though, Kim, is that those self boundaries. How did you start to examine those kind of things and find what works with you?
Well, I think it was just, you know, it was a process. Every time I got into a situation that made me feel uncomfortable, that was like, okay, that's not for me for this time. And I did it like as that day or that moment. And, you know, it had to be like that. And I have to say, most of my friends are quite good with me in the fact that, you know, they do the dry January, the sober October, you know, whatever, you know, dry July and whatever. And you know what, quite honestly, a lot of people now are more into wellness than, you know, I mean, when I was growing up, everybody like was the big lunches, you know, the cocktail lunches and all that. The kids today, like my son is working at a financial place, my oldest son, and there's no booze. They go to work out at lunch, you know, there's a big difference, I find, you know, with a lot of our young people. So I'm glad for that. It's kind of like the drinking and driving, you know, when we were young, I did it, you know, not so much anymore. The kids are better, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's becoming a lot more wisdom to that, and with a good amount of the element, you know, and we have it so much with the youth and working with families, but there is so many that have become very switched on to.
Oh, and you know, the one thing I don't think many parents, sorry to interrupt, but I always forget to talk about this, is when my kids were growing up, even though they're older now, the kids that were in school with them, they were taking ADD medicine or ADHD medicine. Yeah. And the kids drink with that. And that's like, you know, don't ask yourself where the suicidal rates are going up and people are getting depressed and the anxiety. And then they start getting hooked on different things because of those medicines. You can't drink with that. It's no, not a sip, none. And nobody talks about that, you know? Right. So let's get rid of as much as we can for them not to get hooked, because they are getting hooked still.
Yeah, and the ADHD medicine, the Ritalin and the Adderall. Yeah. I mean, God, if I have to hear one more young parent tell me that their 5-year-old has been diagnosed with ADHD, I want to go screaming off into the night somewhere, because it's like I tell these, they're 5. They're supposed to be a pain in the ass. Okay.
Exactly.
And teachers, I remember sitting there at one of the Clovis schools. This is a few years back. And I was talking to their SART group. And so there was parents, there was teachers in there. And my first question to these people where I said, I want to see a show of hands. How many here have their medical degree? And they're looking at me like, what kind of question is that? And I said, seriously, I want to know how many have their medical degree. And they go, well, nobody. Why? I said, then why are you basically prescribing Ritalin to 5 and 6-year-olds here and telling the parents that you need to put it on? I said, don't be afraid to teach. These kids are active. They are pains in the asses. That is their job. And it's your job to teach, not to prescribe. I was never asked to come back to speak at that place again, and I don't care. Okay, because I got my point across these idiots. You're better off drinking 3 pots of coffee, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, and the parents can get outside and exercise with their kids, make them run around instead of like letting them play. And I know my kids played the video games and all that, but really, my boys were like little savages, and that's it. That's what boys are, right?
My boys too. That's a great way to put it. They were little savages. Yeah, they're just, again, talk about a pain in the asses. Okay, yeah, they were. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, Kim, your point is so important. Be involved.
Yeah.
Be up in their lives. Be up in their business. This gentleman preaches that over and over. They're under your roof. Be in their phones. Be in their business. Know who their friends are.
Yeah.
Be involved.
Yeah. Take the door off the hinge if you have to, because and I will tell parents it's fun to piss your kid off. Okay. I mean, it really can be, because the love is always going to be there. Love is inherent. It doesn't go away. They may tell you they don't love you. They may tell you they don't like you, and say, that's fine. Okay. As long as you're alive, you can not like me all you want, but that love, you know what? It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And at some point, those kids will thank you for it.
And I told my kids when they were little, I'm not here to be your friend. That's not what I'm not. I will be later on when you have kids and you start complaining. Trust me. Not now. Not just yet.
That's right.
Oh, that inevitable later on, guys. Trust me. But I think that's hard for some people nowadays to patiently understand that this is a long haul game, that we have to play out. It's our responsibility.
Well, yeah, look, man, I also think though that some of these young parents, they're not mature enough to even have kids yet. If you've got young parents that are drinking and smoking pot and because it's acceptable, not because they're necessarily drug addicts, but if we all know what opioids do to the maturity level, it cuts that in half. And so, and a lot of these other drugs do the same thing. So if you've got a 30-year-old young parent who is using substances, they're not even 30 yet.
Right.
So, nobody takes a look at that piece of the puzzle either. You've got kids raising kids, and they, again, it's like when I speak to some of these younger parents, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at their body language, I'm looking at their facial responses to what I'm saying. And the thought in my head is, geez, I wonder when you're going to march your kid through my door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, there's those people that think that it's never going to happen to them,
Yeah.
And they don't realize, they're just like one step away because it's everywhere. And, if kids don't have self-esteem, and I know like how hard it is, like I started putting a little board in their bathrooms with I am, and every morning and every night I put a word, one positive word. And I do it with people today when they reach out to me. That's my thing. And most people say, there's nothing good about me. And I think, oh Christ, how can that be? Yeah, how can you say that? There's so much that's good about you. And that too has to be fixed, when they're young, so that they have self-esteem and they feel good about themselves, because life is hard.
Right.
And nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What kind of work do you do with folks to really help them start to see that and build that? Are you working with just primarily parents at Sober is the New Cool, the whole family? What's the approach?
You know what? This thing just went like poof. It just kind of went crazy. And I talk to people from basically 7 in the morning or earlier because I have a lot of people in Europe, and they just reach out to me whether they're struggling during the day to get through a day. I never had daughters. I have daughters all over the world now, and they just seek advice. And when they are looking for a Zoom meeting, or they're looking for, an AA, or like. A few of them in Europe were going all to this sober event. And one girl said, "Oh, I don't know anybody. I'm not going to go." And I said, wait a minute. I know all kinds of women up there. And I just put the @ sign and, texted a bunch of people. And all of a sudden there was like 5 women that lived within 15 minutes of her. So they all went
great.
together, and now they're good friends. And I have one young girl, my AKA Sober Badger, and she asked me to do a tattoo with her. And I'm not the tattoo type, but I said, you know what? If that's what it takes to make her feel okay, and if my son needed somebody to do that for him, how could I say no? So she was in London, England. I was in Montreal, Canada. We were on WhatsApp. We did it together by phone, and we speak almost every day. And it's been 4 years. She's had some ups and some downs. And you know what? We get through the days together. So I do anything and everything. I talk to anybody. I do podcasts. I mean, I'm just like, I don't know who I am. Like, I'm just wherever, whenever, I say yes to everything. So I figure it can't be bad, right?
That's right.
Yeah, Kim, I'm not really big on tattoos either. I don't know.
Well, it's my best piece of jewelry now. Okay. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
I love it. I think it's beautiful. So I want to ask, because we are incredibly inundated with fentanyl here, being that you're north of the border with us. What are you starting to see up there? Because this gentleman next to me, myself, this is becoming a global issue.
Well, you know what? For me, it's I'm not so big in Canada, believe it or not. I don't know why, but I'm not yet. But all over the world, I have mothers that reach out to me, and and I share their stories. And if I meet one mother, I put them in contact with another mother, and I just try and support whoever I can, wherever I can. And some mothers, I mean, to this day, that have buried their children are now putting Narcan in boxes and mailing them out. I get very emotional when I talk about it, because I think, through their pain, they're still trying to help others. Right. And somewhere, somehow, this has to stop. I don't know where, but all this lace candy and whatever, and it's coming in. It's like everywhere. It's everywhere. It's one time. It's the one time you'll be dead. And I think the schools have to talk about it. I think you have to talk about when they're young, because this is not like, oh, we can get you off it. You could die. You could die after one time. So,
Yeah, it's interesting, the amount of people that we talk to on the podcast and the amount of people that we're in contact with. And again, I've been doing this for so long, and started talking about the fentanyl crisis as little as 5 years ago. And again, nobody was listening, but everybody we're talking to, it's interesting how everybody brings up the schools. We've got to get the schools. And Jason knows my dilemma with the school districts, even though we're doing pretty well here in Fresno with them having Narcan, but they still don't allow us to come in and tell the real stories on stuff. They want us to soften the story. And I'm not going to soften my story for anybody. But it's age appropriate when I'm talking with kids. But I just find it interesting. Everybody we talk to is saying the same thing about the schools, but nobody's getting across to the schools. Yeah. They're just not listening. I mean, we're watching people on every social media platform talking about schools and how we got to get in there. How the hell do we get in there? Yeah. I mean, again, we've been trying for 10 years. Now we have spoken at a lot of schools, but now that fentanyl is here, Nobody has allowed us in to talk about that. And I don't know why.
I'm kind of hoping, I keep thinking, I know that at home people should be talking about it also. You've got to bring it awareness in the house also. But I mean, I hope that, some of these major athletes or superstars come out and talk about, like one pill can kill. It's not a big, it doesn't have to be longer than that. Just, because these kids idolize these people and something's got to be done. So wherever and whoever can talk about it, I just urge anybody to do it, really.
We spoke at a local high school a couple of days ago and on Monday. And I got there a little early. And so when I was sitting there, this one teacher walked in. And honestly, I mean, she seemed concerned, but she looked at me and she goes, well, this is just a problem for white people, isn't it? And I went, ma'am, I said, no, I said, this thing crosses all boundaries. It crosses all lines into all types of people. Well, I just haven't heard about it hitting the African-American community or another community. And I'm just sitting there just thinking, my God, lady, and you're teaching our kids, it's like, man, you better get into reality here.
And why would you want to wait to hear about it? Do it before you hear about it. Then you have some sort of control over it. No?
Yeah. I mean, we hope that we can educate and empower our way out of it because we're losing the war side of it.
Yeah, and like we've talked about a lot here lately, until the government realizes that we are in the middle of a legitimate war, all right, with China and Mexican cartels on this thing. The only way out of it is to and we're never going to get out of it. I'm just here to tell you, it's not going to happen. We're going to be able to save some lives here. And I think some people are starting to wake up to the fact, but like anything else, we're not going to be able to eradicate this thing as long as we are allowing China to manufacture it, ship it to Mexico, and as long as we're allowing Mexico to bring it over our borders. So again, I can get a little crazy, okay, until we fly an F-16 over one of these places, and napalm them. I don't think there's going to be much change here. I really don't, so education and awareness, that's about the only piece we've got right now.
I don't know what the answer is, but I think we have to keep fighting. And every time we talk about it, nobody likes it. Like I notice when I post stuff, if it's kind of fluffy and nice, it's all good. I get lots of like, oh yeah. And then this month for Sober October, I decided to do the best of the best series, like on podcasts for new people looking into being sober or whatever. And I did a thing on, mothers in fentanyl that have lost their children. And you could see people are I think they're afraid. So it's kind of like, they don't want to like push it away almost, they don't want it in their face. And unfortunately it could be their kids. And I'm going to keep talking about it because. Exactly.
Yeah. We are too. It's not sexy, Kim. All right. That's the thing. It is not sexy. And, And I'm glad it's not, because this isn't a sexy topic. This is reality. And people just are trying to escape in so many different ways these days that I don't think they really want to see this kind of stuff. But we are going to keep putting it out there and keep putting it out there, because if it saves one life, then we've all done our jobs.
Yeah. And listen, when I started Sober is the New Cool, people told me I was nuts. They said, you cannot say sober and cool in the same sentence. And, I have people sometimes that look at me and go, oh, you're one of those, or, the eyes you get when you say at a party you don't drink, like, oh, when, what's wrong with you,
Right. Right.
And you know what? It's much better 10 years later. I do see a lot of improvement and people are like, easier to talk about it. But there still is a stigma. And that stigma about drugs and alcohol and all this nonsense has got to go away. That it's bad, period. And like, stop closing your eyes because it's here.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what my response used to be? Because now I don't get that anymore. You know, if I'm at a
Oh,
party,
no?
because because everybody knows what I do, you know,
Okay.
and 21 years of sobriety. I mean,
Oh,
what
yeah.
do they think I'm going to do? Right. But in the early days, you know, somebody would say, "Oh man, you don't drink, or you want to," I said, "Man," I said, you don't want to see me when I drink or use. Okay. Because that is a whole nother person. I could destroy this party in about 10 seconds, you know, and that would kind of shut them up for a while.
Mhm. Yeah, I was a pretty persuasive guy once everybody else started drinking and things. There's many people, I don't remember what happened. You don't want to know.
Right.
No.
You don't want to remember.
Yeah. But you said something when we started, Kim, about taking a look at yourself hypocritically. And I want to jump back to the schools, because I taught for 5 years, and there was always this push of, well, you're an adult now, treat them like adults and everything. But there was no treating them like adults. So you want them to say they're entering adulthood, but you don't want us to talk to them about these things like adult. You want us
Right.
to level it off. And the reality, it was making me think about, booze and different drugs, and the romanticizing of it with Hollywood and the rock star lifestyle and all these things. And you said it best. There is no romanticizing this when that first time, and there is, and this gentleman's talked to the families of the first time they had that pill, and they're not here anymore.
Right.
No.
And we can't romanticize this. There is no clean message here, folks.
Right.
It's just, you could die first time.
First time. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so young, you know, and the mothers, you see them, they're broken.
Oh, yeah.
They're sadder than sad. Like, don't you get it? You don't want to be, you know, but it's going to get to that point that everyone's going to, and I find the more you talk about it now, this one knows that one, or somebody knows something about fentanyl all of a sudden. It's exploding. So people, watch out.
Well, we, you know, here at our office manager, you know, she lost her son 6 years ago. So you know, think about that. That was 6 years ago, and nobody was talking about fentanyl back then. But my point with that is, this is one of the greatest ladies in the world. But you know, death is permanent, and they're not coming back. And so, you know, we give her time off when she needs it. And if she's working in this field with us. And so a lot of things kind of hit her sometimes, and we have to give her that time. And we're more than happy to do that, because she's a wonderful, wonderful lady, and she will go to the mat for anybody. Okay. With this issue, she will talk to any parent, any person, anytime about this, you know, because no parent, that's one of the message I try to get across these parents. You do not want to be in that position ever, ever, ever. So would you rather piss your kid off, or would you rather pick out their coffin? That's you. How do you soften that in a school presentation? You can't soften this message. There's nothing soft about it. You know, and even sometimes when I've spoken, just something off the cuff, over 15,000 college freshmen drop out of their university every fall semester. Okay. Due to substance abuse. That doesn't mean that they went from high school to their college in September and dropped out in November because they started using something in September. That means they were using something back in high school or junior high school in order to reach that point. But we can't even say that, you know, in some of these schools. So a lot of us have stopped going to them.
I pray that somehow, some way, something is going to happen. Like, I don't know what it is. And I do think, like, you know, these Hollywood types, that because they've got so much power, and that's, you know, the kids, you know, these athletes, I think they, you know, we're lucky and they're lucky they have that power. They could help with those young kids, you know, and say, don't do this, you know?
Right. Well, but I also think with, you know, here we go, with athletes or Hollywood folks, look, I think a lot of it for them, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of it comes down to money. And even when we've tried to get a celebrity or an athlete to come and speak at our dinners, athletes that are in recovery, okay, they want $50,000 to come and speak. One guy wanted $80,000 to come and speak. I'm not blowing smoke here, you know, and so at some point, somebody is going to have to give up their time here. We're all giving up our time. We do a lot here for free. You know, you do the same thing, Kim. You know,
Yeah.
and we're not expecting anything in return, right? But we have to get people, and you've experienced that with your podcast. I mean, you know, sometimes you've got to pay for people to get on here, you know, and it's ridiculous. This is a national crisis. This is a national emergency. You know what? Everybody needs to be involved in this. And God bless the cancer people, and God bless Make-A-Wish, and God bless all those people, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if
it's
I
all
have,
good.
but if I have to hear of one more major nonprofit somewhere getting, you know, a $5 million grant, right? And folks like us and everybody else that are in the middle of this fight not getting it because we're not big enough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's wrong with that picture? Just saying.
Well, I guess then those mothers and fathers are going to have to keep talking because they have power, and that was, you know, the best of the best series. The way I put it for them was the power of one, because I truly believe that with their experience and the way that they're still fighting for others is huge, and it starts with one person. And the more people that talk about it, you know, we've got to make sure that they're heard. We have to make sure they're heard.
Absolutely.
I have to ask, because it's such a great name. Where did Sober is the New Cool come from?
I don't know. I was with my sister, and I was very sad about my son. And, you know, I remember saying, okay, you know, I've got to come, because everything about Sober is the New Cool was done for my Matthew. There was none of this was supposed to ever do this. Okay,
It wasn't supposed to grow.
Well, no, you know, it was supposed to just give him some sort of like anchor to hang on to, that, you know, it was okay, it was cool to be sober, and his mother was doing it, so she's like, you know, whatever, right? He could like use me to say I was like a kind of a nut job or whatever he wanted to say, you know. And so I said to my sister, what about Sober is the New Cool? And she said, oh yeah. And she's like, so she did the logo, but she did it like, so it would be up like this. But when I got my computer, I'm not like tech savvy. I had it the other way, so it stayed like this. And you know, and then she would kind of help me, and slowly I just started playing on social media, and it just went bananas. I had people either, you know, that saw my story about my son, and you know, me talking, or a post I did, and it just took off. It took off. And you know, for me, it's, you know, I realized that, you know, there are a lot of people that just need somebody, and they have to know that they matter, and somebody really cares. Not just, hi, how are you? And then move on. Like every single day, reach out and talk to them and make sure. And, you know, I do, you know, I'm not like a big church going woman, but I do believe in intervention, like in spirituality. And I think that every morning when I wake up, I get these like things, and I think, oh my God, I'm thinking about this one or that one. And surely I send them a message and they needed it. So there's some kind of divine intervention somewhere there, because,
Absolutely.
and it just keeps going. And, you know, I lost my Facebook account, my Instagram account. Somebody hacked me last year at one point, and I thought, okay, that's it. I had a woman that was not only getting sober, but was in a cancer situation. And I promised her the Monday morning I was going to reach out to her, and I got hacked on the Sunday night. And I was devastated, because I thought she's going to think I forgot about her. And when I got my account back, she did say to me, I thought you forgot about me. And, you know, that's where Higgy came in, and he found me on my other account, and just kind of everybody just started to get behind me and rebuild. And then I just said, okay, I've got to be more careful on who I choose to help, and, you know, make sure somebody knows them, or, get them to send me an email, make it a little more difficult, and
Yeah.
it's just gotten better and better. And I think I'm so lucky to do what I do. Like, people trust me with their stories. I really
Right.
believe that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, you bring up Higgy, who's become a very
Love
good
Higgy.
friend of mine.
Love
and
Higgy.
yeah, come on here, and hopefully we'll be able to get some different ideas and events going here, and maybe into next year. But this community is bigger than people think, of people
it is.
that just
Huh.
want to do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Mhm.
And you know what? I find that in the last 10 years, the people I've met are the most sensitive, honest, authentic human beings ever.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 62 next month. I mean, honestly, that's got to tell you something, right?
Right.
There's no garbage. There's no garbage. Everybody tells their story, and there's 9 times out of 10, zero judgment and no competition, and everybody's really there to help one another. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
It is.
I think we get that component of understanding that just by being there for other people, that somehow magically, like you said, you're spiritual, that it'll roll back to us. It just
Yeah.
oddly has a way of doing that when you're just doing it because it's right. It's, being of service to others. There's just a really odd, unexplainable, intangible thing that starts to occur, and you just, it's like, oh, okay, you were right. Thanks for shining the light on me. I will keep doing this.
Right.
And it doesn't matter where I am. No matter where I am, it seems like I talk about addiction and mental health, and like I call it wellness, because people don't like that mental health word. Like, I try to get out of those 1950s
Right.
stigma words, and every time I talk about it, like I'm talking about the sunshine, somebody comes beside me and goes, I'm just getting sober. How do you do this? Or how did you do this? How do I do this? How do I do that? And it's just by talking about it and saying, I don't drink, somebody starts to talk about it. It's incredible.
When did you get to a point, is another thing that you said that I related to, where you stopped explaining? Because you were like, oh, you would have a big reason and the big excuse. And now it's just like, do you want to drink? No, period.
Yeah. You know what? I think it was probably, just before COVID. It was, I don't know why. It was just like I was tired. I was tired of saying the same thing over and over and over. And then I figured, you know what? If people are going to give me those eyes, like, oh, so be it, right? Okay, and then walk away and wait till you hear the story after I leave, kind of thing. But no, and I just figured I didn't want my son, I guess for my Matthew too, it was kind of like, he didn't like having to talk about being epileptic. For him, that was like, he doesn't like talking about it, right? So why does anybody have to explain why they drink or don't drink? Nobody should.
Right.
And I think for him, everything kind of comes around him. And in the end, it was just like, I was tired. I was tired of explaining it. And, I just didn't want to go there anymore. That's not what's going to define me anymore, that I drink or I don't. I'm happy. I love what I'm doing. I love my life. And if I can help people, that's what I want to talk about. Not the why I don't drink nonsense. It's, look at me. I'm much happier. I'm just doing what I'm doing. So that's my slice of heaven. That's, the way I like to look at it now.
I love it.
Me too. Me too.
Kim, if people want to find out more about you, the work you're doing with Sober is the New Cool, how can they go about that?
So I'm on Instagram. So it's sober. There's a period in between each word, is the new cool. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, not too much. I'm not so good with that one. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got a website, but somebody's like fixing it right now. Sober is the new cool.ca though. And we do have merchandise, but let me clarify something here. This is not a money-making machine. This is like all the proceeds after the t-shirts are paid go back to mental health and wellness and addiction. So it's not to make money. It's to give people the opportunity to have like a suit of armor when they go out. And a lot of them do. They love wearing their t-shirts and hoodies. And it makes they say that it takes away that, what do you want to drink? Do you not want to drink? sober's the new cool kind of. It's like a non-starter. Don't bother me with the booze, right?
I love it.
I like it.
And what are some of the areas that those funds help? You said obviously addiction related, mental health. Are you working with organizations there in Canada, around the world, individuals?
There's one in Canada right now, but I'm just waiting to become a nonprofit. Hopefully I'll get the stamp of approval, because I have two big foundations that want to give me money to help others. Like, I'd like to help different people, and whatever it is they need. If they need something for their kids, or they need to go to, a sober living home or something, and they don't have the funds to get there, I want to be able to do more. And if I don't get the stamp of approval, trust me, I'm not stopping. I'll find another way, somehow, some way to get things done.
Yeah,
perfect.
I love the gumption.
Me too.
Is there anything else you want to add, Kim, before we wrap it up here?
I just want everyone to know that, the one thing I want, if you do make a mistake and have a slip, this day one thing, that the stigma of it, no, be happy you're back. Just come back. We don't care.
Yep,
We love you. We're here to support you. There's sober angels everywhere. And you know what? Just, if I did it, nobody would be mean to me. So no one's going to be mean to you. Just remember that you're worthy and you're important and you are loved.
Absolutely.
Mr. Flindt Andersen.
Kim, thank you so much. You're an absolute joy. It's and I like somebody in my kind of my age range here. Okay. No, you're doing some good stuff. I look, I'm proud of how you did this, and you're a great mom. Man, what a thing to do for your son. That is, to me, that is the ultimate right there. And I just can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing. And hopefully we can do some things together. Hopefully we can have you back. And yeah, let's, for some reason, we're doing a lot with people in Canada right now. Okay. And I kind of like the Canadians. So you know what, we're going to do some stuff together, but thank you. Really appreciate it.
And if I can do anything, anytime, I'm there. I promise. Don't worry. I'll help any way I can.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
This podcast contains the views and opinions of hosts and their guests to the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only. And because each person is sharing their unique perspective, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Privacy is of the utmost importance to us. For those wishing anonymity, people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect confidentiality at the request of certain guests. This website or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship. If you find any errors in any of the content of this podcast or blogs, please send a message through the contact page.